My legal husband, 26M, and I, 25F, are going through our worst fight to date. Can we get through this and how? I am in urgent need of assistance at this moment. My husband and I, although legally married without having had our wedding yet, have faced considerable challenges. He openly admits that he struggles to trust me, frequently labeling me as deceitful, manipulative, and sneaky. I do not identify with any of those terms, as I have never acted inappropriately toward him. There were numerous misunderstandings at the start of our relationship, but I made adjustments to ensure his happiness. Everything I do is for his benefit. He lacked trust in me when we initially started dating long distance, prompting me to completely relocate my life to be with him. I terminated my job, left behind my friends, and sacrificed an incredible life I had established. I have switched jobs multiple times to enhance his comfort, parted ways with friends he disapproved of, altered my wardrobe, and transformed my personality. I used to be quite outgoing and cheerful, even toward strangers, but I ceased this behavior because it made him uncomfortable. I rarely go out and barely leave the house. Recently, he accused me of being dishonest about spending time with a group of men during the past weekend while he was away. My friends were in town for my bachelorette celebration. He confronted me with a screenshot from his notes app, calling me manipulative and beneath contempt. By that time, I recognized he was agitated about something, but I did not expect such a harsh accusation filled with anger and name-calling. The night before, I had been bar-hopping downtown, but I was only with my friends. He claimed to have evidence and constructed an elaborate story to fit it. However, the alleged proof was inconsequential. It was merely video footage of me conversing with a random woman who approached my friends and me. We were just standing at a street corner waiting for the light to change, and she had two men with her. I did not even notice them. If it hadn't been for the video, I wouldn't have been aware of their existence at all. While he was accusing me over the phone, a friend who was with me that weekend called. I informed my husband I was going to answer her. While speaking with her for a total of 7 minutes, he incessantly called me around 20 times. While conversing with my friend, I relayed his accusations and the supposed evidence he claimed to have. She reassured me I was not going insane and had done nothing wrong. She also confirmed that no one in our group interacted with those men. They were merely following the woman they were with. Fast forward a few hours, and my husband realized I had not committed the offense he claimed. He acknowledged fabricating a false narrative. Yet now, it became a significant issue that I had told my friend about the situation. I had betrayed him by doing so, and she was no longer welcome at our wedding. He stated explicitly, "I will be there, or she will be there, it is up to you." I am utterly crushed by this ultimatum regarding my best friend, who has done nothing wrong. She did not speak ill of him or try to persuade me to leave him. She was simply there to support me. He continually brings up the possibility of canceling the wedding and contacting my parents to inform them I have involved another person in our relationship. I implore him not to put me in that position, emphasizing how devastating it would be. I express that I do not wish to marry someone who issues ultimatums. He insists that I make a choice. I refuse, repeatedly stating that I do not want to be married to someone who resorts to ultimatums. He retaliates with even greater anger, screaming and hurling insults at me during the phone call. I eventually hang up. He sends multiple texts demanding I choose. I maintain my stance, explaining how dreadful it is to even ask. I didn't only inform that friend. I had created a group chat encompassing everyone who was with me that night. I regret that decision now and even apologize to them for involving them. I had been in a state of sheer panic and required support. I understand that bringing all my friends into the situation might have upset him and escalated matters, but his fixation on my best friend is incredibly heartbreaking. Eventually, he relents, claiming he did not truly mean it and grudgingly accepts her presence, but still harbors resentment toward her. The situation calms temporarily, but now I feel even more unsettled. Was this all just a power play to dominate me? I communicate my frustration, and he retorts that I would have never chosen him anyway. I counter that I would choose him, but I could never forget or forgive his actions. I ask, "Is that what you want? For me to abandon my best friend to make you feel more valued?" I have sacrificed so much for him and am unwilling to sacrifice my best friend. He begins yelling again, and the argument continues. Now he insists that the response should have been instantaneous. I should have discarded my best friend without hesitation. Such an action would devastate our friendship and me. We exchanged arguments for a while, but I eventually hung up. I could no longer endure it. No matter what I said, it was insufficient. I was not fast enough, I hadn't sacrificed enough for him, and I would never be a priority in his eyes. That same night, he took back everything once more, stating he just needed intimacy since he had been away for 2 weeks and would return home in a few days. I felt unsettled by this but considered it. Perhaps it stems from the anxiety of separation, or maybe we need closeness. I awaited his return, hoping that our time together would resolve everything. In the days that followed, I struggled to be myself and communicated to him multiple times that I was not okay. I did not feel safe or alive. Now, a week has passed. It is Sunday. I still cannot move past this. He arrived home late Thursday night. We had not discussed the matter much. We shared intimacy and then went to bed. Friday morning was pleasant. We talked about different subjects and were intimate again, but I still felt an underlying ache. I called in sick to work to spend the day with him, hoping to mend our relationship. As a side note, which I am unsure is relevant, my husband thinks it is. On Friday afternoon around 4 p.m., he announced he would play on the Xbox for several hours with a friend. He made this comment jokingly, so I assumed he was teasing. To my surprise, he ended up playing from around 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. I was quite irritated by this, but it did not escalate into a serious fight. I had expected him to want to spend the evening with me, healing and reconnecting. To be fair, he was unaware of how much I relied on that time together. He was fine, seemingly having dealt with everything and moving on. Moving to Saturday morning, I was having an exceptionally difficult time. I expressed this repeatedly, conveying how unsettled I felt. When I wasn't feeling unsettled, I felt entirely drained. It's crucial to mention that I was raised in a highly volatile environment. My father occasionally displayed physical aggression due to severe PTSD, and my mother was emotionally distant. He treated her as poorly as he did us, and our family endured some arduous years. I could not be alone with my father and struggled to hold conversations with him. Over time, things improved. After years of therapy, I managed to cope. I love my father and mother, but the past lingers. I experience the repercussions daily. I feel the fear. My anxiety spikes significantly when people are upset with me. I communicated my feelings to my husband several times, making him aware that my trauma influences my reactions. I articulated my struggle to see him as I once did. He had yelled at me previously and accused me of numerous things. Although he had lashed out on various occasions, this felt different and genuinely shook me to my core. Despite my distress, we carried on with our day. We went to the gym, returned home, and while I made dinner, he played on the Xbox. We watched television while we ate, and when we finished, he immediately returned to the Xbox until 1 a.m. this time. He was fully aware of how much this bothered me. However, at this juncture, I would prefer him to engage in gaming rather than be with me and harbor resentments. I realized he would rather be playing with his friend. I conveyed this, and he accepted it. He continued playing until the early morning. While he was engaged in his game, I remained upstairs trying to understand my emotions and work through my thoughts. Eventually, I gave up and tried to distract myself, although it did not help. He came to bed later, and I was still awake, overwhelmed by my pain. When he asked what was wrong, I admitted, "I think I'm scared of you." We did not delve deeper into the subject. He requested I lie next to him, and we fell asleep. We overslept. Waking up around 11 a.m., I took a shower while he went downstairs to have coffee. It was one of those lengthy showers, lasting about 30 minutes. When I exited and entered the room, he was lying on the bed, jokingly teasing me about the length of my shower and how he had intended to shower afterward, not anticipating I would take so long. I laughed and apologized, explaining it was a thorough shower. Everything seemed fine at this moment. I do not remember who initiated the conversation, but eventually he remarked, "So you're scared of me." You realize I had to sleep with that weighing on my mind. I sat on the bed and attempted to clarify my feelings. I expressed that his yelling frightened me and that, based on my experiences, those who yell often resort to physical violence. His demeanor shifted drastically, making it clear he took my words personally. I continued to explain that I could not justify his actions. In the past, I understood his perspective, but this time felt different. I stated he had become completely delusional and lashed out at me in a manner I had never witnessed before. This infuriated him, and we began debating the validity of our initial conflict. I insisted I was unaware of who those men were. I did not engage with them. He countered that I had interacted with them. I maintained that while they were physically present, I did not speak to them, nor did my friends. This discussion persisted, and eventually, he clarified that a major part of his anger stemmed from my unwavering denial. I had refused to accept that I was with men, despite his claims of having proof. I reiterated, as I had before, that his proof was baseless. It showed people crossing the street at the same time, due to the green light, heading to the same bar. I spoke to the woman in the group who approached me, but I had no awareness of the men present. While crossing the street or waiting in line, I did not interact with them. In his evidence, it was clear. They were behind me, and I never even glanced in their direction. He began to grow increasingly angry, displaying a shift in his demeanor as calmness vanished. I told him that I was not attempting to portray him as a monster. I was coming to him seeking honesty and vulnerability. He retorted that I was indeed making him feel like a monster and that I should recognize he would never harm me. Although I did not verbalize it, I instantly recalled my father. I had only ever witnessed such intense delusion and rage in him. He would fabricate stories and go on violent rampages. At this point, he continued defending his reaction, asserting he wasn't justifying it, but rather trying to help me understand his outbursts' intensity. I asked, "Isn't that just justification?" What I desired from him was a straightforward apology without justification. I wanted him to acknowledge that I was not at fault, that he would never hurt me, and that he was sorry for my pain. I wished to feel secure. He claimed he had been trying to do that all weekend and had apologized, but with every apology, there was a justification attached. While he had held me the previous night after I expressed my fear, which was comforting, the subsequent anger and reactions stripped that comfort away. While sitting on the bed, I found myself chuckling. I had seen a post the day before stating that narcissists tend to express, "Yes, I hurt you, but now you're upset with me. Who's truly the victim?" When he asked what was amusing, I shared the thought with him. Naturally, this did not sit well with him. I do not recall his precise response, but I stood up. I experienced a realization. I do not care about justifications because there isn't one. I informed him that he simply cannot accept responsibility for his actions. He countered that I only wanted him to plead for forgiveness. I replied, "I just want to feel safe, and right now I do not." I walked away. Since that moment, I have been sitting on our porch. He left the house and I have no idea where he went. I do not mind, I need distance from him. I have been searching for couples therapy options, but since it is Sunday, I cannot reach out yet. So here I am, engulfed in panic and fear. We are legally married. Our wedding ceremony is approaching in a few weeks. How can we navigate through this? Story 2. My 23F, life is blowing up. Is breaking up with my boyfriend, 21M, the solution? I am a 23-year-old female. There is a significant amount of important information, so this is lengthy. Brace yourself. A year and a half ago, I began to develop a crush on a close friend of mine, Peter, 34-year-old male. Yes, there is a considerable age difference. He has never come across as creepy, though, and we had been friends for a couple of years before I started to feel this way. We met through community theater in our small town. I have never had much success or interest in dating men my age since entering adulthood. I go on dates to find the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Men my age tend to date for casual encounters and one-night stands. I have a job in my career that I am passionate about and want to build a solid foundation. Men my age often appear to have no idea what they are doing with their lives or finances. Therefore, I have always been drawn to individuals who also have a strong foundation. It is not that finding your footing is bad. It is just not where I currently am, and I appreciate the idea of being with someone who is at that level with me. This initiated a year-long journey of me having strong feelings for this guy. I felt as if those feelings were mutual, but he never made a move, and I was far too timid to do so myself. Furthermore, it appeared that he was still getting over a crush on another girl, 28-year-old female, who was also involved in the theater community, so I waited for him to be ready to pursue a romantic relationship. Consequently, nothing happened for an entire year. Eventually, I grew weary of waiting for him to take action, so I started to broaden my options and see who else was available. My best friend Veronica, 20-year-old female, was engaged and now married to Derek, 18-year-old male. Derek has a brother, Sam, 21-year-old male, whom they wanted to set me up with. After losing hope with Peter, I thought, why not? And went on a double date with them. The date was fantastic. Sam and I instantly connected. I have experienced a great deal of romantic trauma from previous relationships, and this was the safest I had felt with someone on a date in quite some time. It did not take long for us to start dating, become exclusive, and commence our relationship. The beginning was wonderful. He treated me better than any man ever has, raising my expectations for anyone else in my life. We have now been dating for 4 months. 2 days after Sam and I officially started dating, the last thing I expected to occur happened. Peter texted me and finally asked me out after more than a year of hoping he would. However, I had just committed to a relationship. It was only 2 days, certainly, but I do not take commitments lightly. So I respectfully declined Peter's offer. He was very understanding and even congratulated me on my new relationship. I informed Sam about what transpired, which then sparked his major grudge and jealousy toward Peter. This reaction is understandable. Yet, there were moments when it became excessive. For example, I directed one of the shows performed at our community theater. On the exact same night, both Peter and Sam attended. Because we are theater friends and were at the theater, Peter approached and discussed the show, directing, and other shared interests with me. Sam was so jealous about that interaction that he could not fully enjoy my show because Peter was there appreciating it. Sam gradually became more possessive, wanting to know what I was doing at all times and becoming upset if I was too exhausted to hang out, among other behaviors. A few weeks ago, we had our first argument about theater. I grew up immersed in theater. My entire family is involved. My sister is the founder of our town's community theater, and it is a significant part of what I want to pursue for the rest of my life. Sam essentially issued me an ultimatum to choose between him or theater. It was our initial disagreement, so it was definitely more intense than it needed to be, but I was deeply hurt that he wanted me to abandon my greatest passion for him. We managed to talk it through, and he was okay with me continuing with theater, as long as I would avoid stage kisses, which was an important issue for him. However, it never felt like it was truly resolved. A week later, I invited him to accompany me to see a show. The problem? Peter played the lead role in that performance. Sam was upset that I would consider attending a show featuring Peter. My reasoning? I have seen every single performance at that theater and have never missed one. It is my sister's business, and I want to support it. Plus, I am friends with virtually every cast member in that production. I was not attending solely for Peter, but for everyone involved. Sam begrudgingly agreed to accompany me, and he actually handled the situation better than I anticipated. I thought he would be grumpy, angry if I laughed at Peter, or make me feel guilty for being there, but we had a good time, and he seemed to relax afterward. However, we experienced another significant argument last night. Sam has been living with Veronica and Derek, and the three of them just moved into an apartment together. I was there yesterday helping them move in and set things up. One of the consistent disagreements between Sam and me revolves around physical affection. It is undoubtedly his love language. He loves to be physically close and cuddly, especially in public to show me off. However, for me, excessive touch makes me quite uncomfortable, particularly in front of others. I dislike public displays of affection and being overly affectionate. This has been a significant source of tension for us. Yesterday, there was a lot of physical contact because there were movers and other friends present. While he wanted to be all snuggled up, I felt uncomfortable with the idea. I later left to assist Veronica in setting up her closet while Sam built some end tables. Let me briefly explain my relationship with Veronica. When I say she is my best friend, I mean it. She is my best friend. I have never been closer to anyone. We work together and often socialize outside of work, seeing each other for more than 40 hours a week. Even when we are not together, we text constantly, often exchanging hundreds of messages a day. Neither of us has had fulfilling friendships before, which has caused us to become very attached while trying to navigate being good friends. She has supported me through various challenges, knows me better than anyone else, and I love her so deeply that it has made me genuinely question my sexuality. I noticed that Sam appeared sad last night, so we spoke about it. It began with the usual struggle of his need for physical affection and my reluctance toward it, but it quickly escalated this time because Veronica was brought into the conversation. He expressed that he feels I care more about her than him and implied that I was only there for her. In my defense, she was the one who invited me to help set up her closet, but he was upset that he felt like I was ignoring him and focusing on her. I have struggled, for over a year now, with the fact that Veronica has been my primary person. She is my go-to person, the first one I call for assistance. However, she has Derek, whom she has known longer and has a different relationship with. So, while I have been her number one friend, she has someone else to turn to. It is difficult because I genuinely appreciate their relationship. They are truly wonderful together, and I want them to be happy forever. However, it is challenging for me not to be there for her the way she has been there for me. As I am in a relationship with Sam, I want to develop that bond, but there is still an instinctual urge in me to turn to Veronica since she has been my primary support for so long. Sam has been struggling with this, and during our discussion, he stated that he wished my friendship with Veronica would end so that she would no longer interfere in our relationship. That ultimatum came out of nowhere and shattered me. I ultimately walked away in tears because I was not prepared to discuss that yet. Sam informed Veronica of why I left, and she texted me essentially saying that if she is causing a rift between us, she will step back from our friendship. I was devastated. I am still devastated. I want to be closer to Sam, but I am not there yet. Now, I am potentially losing the dearest and closest person in my life. Moreover, since we are still coworkers, I will see her for 40 hours a week. If I continue dating Sam, he is related to them and lives with them. Honestly, the best choice may be to break up with Sam. I love him greatly. He has treated me incredibly well, and I can honestly envision a future with him. I know we could work through these issues, yet it feels impossible. It seems as though my life is unraveling. I am losing my best friend, my passion, and I feel like my family is drifting away from me, all of which is generating resentment towards Sam for making me choose. I do not want to end our relationship. I want to learn how to make it work, as I often tend to run away rather than confront my problems. But is our relationship too damaged to salvage? Is it wiser to lose both him and Veronica to avoid harboring resentment toward him for forcing me to choose? In summary, my boyfriend is making me choose between him and many important aspects of my life. Should I prioritize my relationship or break up to retain those other aspects? Story 3. I met a woman online. We hit it off, but she was into dating apps. After a few dates, the police were called on me for stalking. Before I begin, I am uncertain whether this violates rule number 11. If it does, please remove it. For context, I am a 31-year-old man residing in Antwerp, Belgium, and recently, the police were contacted concerning my interactions with a woman I was dating. I met this woman, 30 years old, online at the end of December through Threads. She made a post expressing her desire to meet new people, as it is challenging to form connections in Antwerp, especially for those of Asian descent. Being originally from Hong Kong, I thought it would be nice to connect with someone who speaks the same language. I sent her a direct message, and we arranged to meet for brunch. We hit it off quite well. After our meal, she expressed interest in seeing my 2 adorable cats, so we went back to my apartment. Everything went smoothly. We even watched a movie before she left. The following day, I texted her, asking if I could prepare dinner for her. She agreed but asked if she could bring along a friend and artist who draws cats and is passionate about them. I thought this was a bit unusual, but I went along with it. The next day, I prepared dinner for the 3 of us, and we began a Harry Potter marathon. In the following weeks, things continued to go well. We frequently hung out at my store or my home to watch the remainder of the movies. At one point, I noticed she was using dating apps. She even opened one while we were watching a movie. She apologized, acknowledging it was inappropriate. She told me we were not exclusive, but she wasn't seeing anyone else at the moment. She also mentioned that if we were dating exclusively, it would be like being in a relationship, which she wasn't ready for. I requested that she be honest with me if she started dating someone else. Every couple of weeks, I sent flowers to her workplace to express my interest and gratitude. We engaged in deeper discussions about relationships, during which she shared that she had been cheated on around 8 months ago, in July, and was hesitant about entering a new relationship. She stated that she wanted to take things slow. She also indicated that she was attracted to European men, blonde hair, blue eyes, but assured me that it was merely a preference and not who she would ultimately end up with, adding that she still found me attractive for an Asian. Fast forward 2 weeks, things were progressing well. She had a work trip to Pitti Uomo in Florence, and before she left, we spent the night together for the first time. We had sex, but she clarified that this did not change the nature of our relationship. I departed the next morning, and we maintained communication while she was in Italy. During her 3-day trip, she confessed that she was starting to develop feelings for me. In response, I asked if she would consider deleting her dating apps, as I tend to overanalyze situations. She reacted negatively and had a breakdown, stating she was damaged and not prepared to fully welcome someone new into her life. This is where I truly went wrong. I downloaded Tinder to check if her account was active while she was in Italy, and then, foolishly, I admitted this to her. She understandably felt uncomfortable, and I apologized. When she returned, I took her out for dinner and presented her with a gift, a very particular comb, Officine Universelle Bewley, that she had lost and could only procure in Paris. I had traveled to Paris just to buy it for her. That night, we watched a movie, had sex again, and everything seemed fine. However, she was still evidently unsettled by the Tinder incident and mentioned that it made her uncomfortable, although she wished to continue seeing me since she believed I was a genuine person. She frequently inquired if I thought the situation was unfair to me, considering how well I treated her while she was not ready for a committed relationship. I consistently reassured her that my main concern was her happiness and comfort. She regularly sent me pictures of things she desired, not directly requesting them, but definitely hinting. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I bought her a lovely denim jacket in every available size so she could choose, and workout shoes since she didn't own any. She was pleasantly surprised and happy. She even leaned in for a kiss, which led me to believe things were progressing well. In the weeks that followed, I continued to shower her with gifts, designer clothing and shoes, and consistently sent flowers to her workplace. On Valentine's Day, February 14, I had pre-ordered flowers for her, but she texted me asking not to send them to her office because her boss might question her about them. I felt quite hurt by this. I informed her that I couldn't cancel the delivery and suggested she refuse them at the door if it made her uncomfortable. She became upset, claiming that I was being extreme and inconsiderate. Ultimately, however, she accepted the flowers. That evening, I acquired a special cake from a fancy patisserie and waited outside her house to surprise her after work. She typically arrives home around 5:15 p.m., but by 6:30 p.m., she still had not arrived. Feeling cold and frustrated, I left the cake at her doorstep. When I inquired about her absence, she explained that she went straight to the gym after work, taking the flowers with her. The next day, we had a trip to Amsterdam planned for a nice dinner I had organized, and despite the tension, it still occurred. However, something had changed. She no longer kissed me and expressed a desire to take a step back so we could move forward in a healthier manner. I felt sad but attempted to act nonchalant. I covered the entire cost of the day. On Sunday, February 16, we traveled to Rotterdam to watch a Hong Kong film since it was only being shown in the Netherlands, and she invited the same friend from our first meeting. Again, I covered the expenses for both of them. In the weeks that followed, I continued to cook for her and buy her designer clothing and shoes, items she had hinted at but never directly requested. She began kissing me again, and things appeared to be okay. She mentioned that she was becoming busy with work and preparing for an upcoming photo shoot, so I gave her some space. Fast forward to this past Friday. She visited for dinner, and we watched Culinary Class Wars episode 12. We discussed intimacy since we had not had sex since January. I asked if we could be more intimate, and she replied that if we had sex, it would imply we were in a relationship, which she was not prepared for. She also mentioned that she was not sexually attracted to me, but was fine with kissing and cuddling because it did not hold much significance for her. I was appalled and felt sick hearing that. Earlier that evening, I had tried to initiate intimacy without knowing how she felt, and after our conversation, I felt utterly rejected. She mentioned that she was already doing her best by dedicating her time to me. Hurt and frustrated, I requested that she return the gifts I had given her not because of the absence of sex, but because I felt she had been providing me with false hope while continuing to accept everything I did for her without reciprocating. The only things she had given me were 3 mandarin oranges. She stated that she only cooks for her boyfriend and has only held hands with her boyfriends. So in the 2 months, we had only shared kisses and cuddles, but no hand-holding. She refused, saying it doesn't work that way, and left angrily. Later, I discovered that she had blocked me. Infuriated, I took an Uber to her place and rang her doorbell. She didn't answer, but she picked up when I called and said she blocked me because she was angry. However, she had since unblocked me everywhere. She expressed fear and asked me to leave, so I complied. We continued to talk on the phone, and she accused me of requesting my items back solely because we hadn't had sex, which was not true. I explained that I felt she did not deserve the gifts because she continued to give me mixed signals while still accepting everything I provided for her. She accused me of gaslighting her. Remaining upset, I went back to her place again and attempted to call. After 6 calls, a man answered and announced that he was from the local police of Antwerp, asking who I was. They informed me that they had my information and warned that if I did not come to them, they would arrest me. About 15 minutes later, I arrived at her residence and noticed a police car parked in the middle of the road. I approached the officers and calmly explained my side of the story, affirming that I understood why she felt scared but never intended for the situation to escalate. They were understanding and even expressed sympathy for my situation, but made it clear that she had no legal obligation to return any gifts I had provided her. As we spoke, I noticed the designer handbag I had given her sitting in front of her door, filled with some of the gifts I had purchased. I informed the police that I did not want to escalate the situation, I merely wanted my belongings back. However, they cautioned me that if I returned to her residence again, I would be arrested. Even after retrieving the bag, I realized that not everything I had given her was inside. I still wanted the rest back because, at this point, I felt she did not deserve to keep them. Now she has blocked me everywhere, including from her friends. My heart is shattered. Am I in the wrong, or just perhaps foolish? Story 4. I was raised by 3 parents, navigating love mixed with belittlement, feeling like a permanent guest in my own life. I am uncertain about how to proceed with this. This is simply an unfiltered emotional release on paper. I am unsure whether it is logical or coherent, but I felt compelled to write it. I cherish my parents, I genuinely do. I frequently reflect on my childhood and grapple with understanding it. I was brought up by 3 guardians who collectively shared only one father among them. The model for what it means to be a man or to nurture one was essentially absent. I received love. Yet I was also belittled, humiliated, mocked, embarrassed, blamed, utilized as a pawn, stifled, disregarded, and misunderstood. I was expected to confront every challenge equipped with a full set of tools and the knowledge to utilize them, but no one ever taught me how. I quickly learned to tread lightly, never knowing when I might provoke someone's anger. The walls bore the evidence, shaped by the contour of my head. I came second to the lady of the evening. I was held accountable for the actions taken at my father's residence. I was blamed for missed opportunities while being away. I was present 1 weekend each month, yet I was not to be asked to engage in any activities during that time. We are exhausted from doing things when you are absent. No, you cannot visit a friend's house. This is your designated time with us. You genuinely would rather not spend time with us. I became a bargaining tool in a custody dispute. On both sides. The seed of division was sown early. I would have to pick between my parents. I dreaded that moment so much that I considered keeping track of every grievance and every act of kindness to declare that the decision was not mine. I did not want to bear the burden of disappointment. I did not want to bear the burden of anger. If I made a mistake, if I uttered the wrong words or acted incorrectly, I was belittled until I felt insignificant enough to vanish. There was no space for errors, no room for guidance, no space for patience. I felt trapped. I was the red-headed stepchild, the offspring of individuals who had not matured, and somehow that became my fault. I did not have a home. I felt like a visitor in every place I resided. A stranger, an outsider, a temporary guest overstaying his welcome. I was not permitted to be who I truly was. My true self was not embraced. Oh, you had an incident at school because you were too frightened to ask to go to the restroom. What is wrong with you? Come with me. Now. We are marching across the street at 8:30 in the evening so you can tell the neighbors the only friends you have what a pathetic baby you are. Oh, your friend texted you after 6 p.m. They should know better. Hand over your phone. I am going to yell at them. I will scold their parents too. They wonder why I hardly ever call. Suck it up. Boys do not cry. Why aren't you adept at everything? Why do you lack natural motivation? I should not have to teach you, you should just know. Why don't you already know this? Because I said so, that is why. Do not wrestle with your brothers. You are too big. You will hurt them. Do not be unkind to them. You boys are enjoying yourselves too much. You are being overly loud. Why do you never converse with each other? You are brothers. You are meant to be closer than this. Why do your teeth look like that? It is disgusting. You truly need to address that. It is not natural to have two different shades of white on your teeth. Fix them. Hey, my friends and I are heading to the bar. You will be fine here alone, right? You know where the food is. Your Legos are here. The TV is there. Put yourself to bed. We should return around 2 a.m. You received an A. That is not an A. You achieved a B. You need to perform better. You earned a C. Hand over your phone, your games, your bed, everything you believe you own. I know you are 13, but you received a C. Are you using drugs? Where are you purchasing them? That is the only explanation for your failures. You will amount to nothing. So I learned to keep to myself. Relationships only scratch the surface. It was easier to bottle everything up and never share how I felt. What was the point? No one would pay attention anyway. Isolation became my escape. Sports were intended to be my release, but they were not, at least not initially. I was not skilled enough. Then, when I became proficient, it still was not sufficient. Missed a tackle during a football match. Your new nickname is Susie. Get accustomed to it. People showed up to see you and this is how you performed. Write them a note. Thank them for attending. Apologize for wasting their time. That is humiliating. Being team captain was insufficient. All conference recognition was not enough. Division I scholarships did not satisfy. Why aren't you taking me on your visits? I deserve to go. I fund everything. You live under my roof. It genuinely angered me when my mother said I never called. It genuinely angered me that I had to raise myself. It genuinely angered me to hear, "You are not my son," when I faced struggles in school. It genuinely angered me to hear, "You are such a problem," directed at her. And when I intervened to say she is not, that led to me being slammed against the side of a truck. A hand tightened around my throat, a reminder of my smallness, a week after my 6th grade graduation. I stood up, I spoke out, and somehow it became my fault. She sided with him. She stated she would choose her marriage over me. Then I was the one required to apologize. And when I did, "You will become a bigger person. If we ever argue, I will find any object I can and stab you in the kidney with it." But I was loved, right? I felt like it was my fault for being born while they were still in high school. Do not dare ask for assistance with anything. You are an inconvenience. Why do you have needs and desires? Why do you consume so much food? Do you not realize you are overweight? Stop eating donuts, cake, chips, frozen burritos, Hot Pockets, Twinkies, pudding, and cereal from the pantry. Stop drinking our sodas. You need to exercise. Here, have your McDonald's. You better consume every bite. Lazy. Work out. Has no one ever taught you self-discipline? Has no one ever taught you self-control? Why do you spend so much time at the gym? You are always absent. Why can't you simply eat what we eat? Why complicate matters? Is this not nutritious enough for you? Why didn't you inform us that you encountered trouble? Why did you manage it alone? Oh, really? It is none of our concern. You are an adult now, living 1,600 miles away. You better handle your own affairs. Well, guess what? We are upset anyway. You are going to waste everything away. How much income do you earn? How many hours do you work? Conversations are shallow. They lack depth. Do not inject emotion into them. We will lose interest. We will interrupt you. It is nothing worth hearing. You really ought to visit. No, we will not come to see you. Why would we? Why would we spend the money? The scenery is the same here. We want grandchildren. Should we start sending baby clothes? Just in case? You should honestly consider starting a family. I strive not to hold it against them. I attempt to justify their actions. They needed to mold me into a man. I needed to be resilient. Inside me resides a frightened little boy. It does not take much for me to revert back to him. He is wounded. He is furious. He is unsure of what to do. I desire my children to grow up feeling free to express themselves, to be allowed to embrace their identities, to understand that they can take risks. I want them to trust me. I wish to be part of their safe haven.